Hey, and welcome back everyone to the So What Home Party channel. My name's Andrea and I am going to be your host through the last installment of our September Cal. If you remember, we did two previous ones. We did the apple earrings, which you can see here. And these were the first project in the September Cal because the theme for September was back to school. So we did apple earrings. The second project, and I will link the iCards above here. The second project was the needle minders. We did one. I pre-made one before that just as an example to show you. We did this was a pencil, and then we made this one together. It was the one that resembled a chalkboard, and it says hi and a piece of chalk and an eraser there. So those were the first two projects. And for the third installment and final installment, oops, sorry about that. It will be, we're going to crochet something, and you can see it kind of in the background here. So let me move these items out of the way. So we are going to be making this C2C crochet tote or little bag. Oops, a little fuzzy there. And I sewed on a zipper here, and I also, oh my goodness, I'm getting fuzzies from everything. Okay, so I also made a cute little zipper pull here out of two oversized buttons that I had. One side looks like paper, and the other side looks like pencils. So it's a cute little bag. The zipper works here. You open it up, and you have room inside, and these would be perfect to hold like extra pencils, or this would be perfect if you have a teacher who's a crafter and needs an extra little tote to hold things in. So I'm going to, if those of you who don't know, the C2C stitch for crochet is called the corner to corner stitch, because you essentially work from one corner and get wider as you go, and then you start to decrease when you get to your widest point and come all the way to the end. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I pre-made this to show you what it looks like. I'm going to use a different color and yarn just for my sample piece, just to kind of show you the deal of how it works. But if you have any questions, remember, don't hesitate to comment down below. Let me know what your questions are. If you have any questions on the stitch, I will be more than happy to answer them. And I apologize that it took me so long to get this last installment in for September, but I've been crazy busy, lots going on. So without further ado, let's jump right to the explanation of the pattern. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the pattern. So what I did is I just kind of drew this out myself. This isn't a pattern that I bought or found anywhere. I drew this out myself, and I wanted it to just, you know, have the resemblance of an apple, but not necessarily be rounded. So I took my graph paper and I made these squares kind of big just so I could show you what I was doing here. So when you follow a C2C or corner to corner stitch and cross stitch and crochet, sorry, like I said, you work from, it's kind of different. You can work with a grid, and you can use, the reason why I say cross stitch is because you can work with a cross stitch grid, but you work kind of like this. It's because you start in this corner here, and then you essentially work your way out, getting wider as you go. As you can see here, you go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and then because this is your widest point according to this grid, you go smaller again to 4 to 3 to 2 and to 1. So on my pattern, I figured up, I used my ruler, and I figured up that when I did my gauge, and if you're not sure what that is, I will put an iCard above to the basics of crochet video that I made, and it talks about gauge in there. But real quickly, a gauge is when you crochet, it kind of tells you how you crochet. So if you're a big loose or tight crocheter, it will help you gauge how big your piece needs to be. And according to my my ruler, when I measured it out, I need to be, each one of these squares indicates 2 C to C squares. So there's, technically speaking, there'll be 8 squares going up, which if you look at our example piece, I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that is what that means. And then my bottom row equaled out to be 10 stitches across to give us the length. So, and then I have a bunch of notes on here. So I used one 4-inch zipper, and I used and then I indicated the red yarn, the green yarn, and the brown yarn. I just used a simple whip stitch to sew them around, and I did so along to also attach the zipper. I just drew myself diagrams on where I wanted to attach everything so I could remember where I was going, because it's my makeshift, my own pattern I made. So now I'm going to show you how I translated that to show you how I worked it. So this is my other graph, and this is the more detailed one, and as you can see, I've spaced this out now to 8 stitches high and 10 across. That is the same as here. Remember, I have the 2, 4, 6, and 8. So as you can see, it just got a little smaller in size, but it works up to be the same size. It's a more spread out graph. So what you need to do this project is a sewing needle, embroidery thread. I used the embroidery thread to sew the zipper because the yarn would be too thick and cause too many big holes. So I used red embroidery thread to sew on the zipper. You need scissors, a darning needle to sew in your ends, and a coordinating button or zipper pull for the zipper. Or you don't have to have a zipper pull. I just like the idea of having the zipper pull. I used a H size 8 hook, or 5.00 millimeter. So as you can see here, just real quick again, this is 8 high by 10 across. So each one of these is a C2C stitch, and you work, like I said, which is why I drew these lines here, you work in the diagonal, and this will make more sense when we start doing the stitch. And this really works up really quickly, and you make so many different things with it. You could make a triangle shawl. You make, a lot of people make blankets. You can also do like those graph gans, or make a blanket with like I said, like a cross stitch picture. I made an apron once and used this stitch, and I made a rabbit in the middle. So it can be used for many different things, and it makes it so much easier to do, for me to do graphing type designs. And it's all worked with double crochets. So all you really need to know how to do is a double crochet and slip stitch. So it's really, really simple. So in just a second, we'll get started. I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so now we have our yarn. I'm using, I think this is an Aran color. It's just a red heart worsted weight yarn. And like I said, I have my H, let's see if I can show it to you, my H8 or 5 millimeter hook. So we're going to start off by making our slip stitch, just like we always do. So we're going to make our slip stitch, put it on our hook. Okay, so what you do to start is you're going to chain 6 to make your height for your block. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see it a little better. Okay, so if you count, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to count the 4th chain down from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Hold on. Let me make sure I have a right amount of stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, I chained 1 too many. I thought that looked funny. Okay. All right. So now we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, I was wrong. It just, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this one mat because it's kind of hard to see, and I'm sorry, and I apologize for that. There we go. That's a lot better. Okay. So It's okay. We all make mistakes. We're going to go ahead and show you how to do this now. So we're going to count the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you're going to make 1 double crochet into that 4th chain. And again, if you need to remember how to do the double crochet, just reference my channel video on my channel of the double crochet. Okay, and now you're going to go ahead and make 2 more double crochets in the last 2 stitches. And what this is essentially doing is making a square or a block, whichever you want to call it. And since I'm a tight knitter, I sometimes have issue. There we go. And 1 more. Okay, so as you can see, I'll pull this up a little bit so I can show you. So this kind of like made a square. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work and we're going to chain 6. So we're essentially starting the 2nd row of the pattern. Excuse me. So if you look at the pattern, this square here is this square here. It's not red because I'm using a different color just to show you, but we're essentially making this square here. So now what we're going to do, if you looked at it this way, we're essentially going to make this row here. So we're going to chain up 6 and then come back and make our square and attach it and so forth. So let's do that right now. All right, so we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do just like you did on the first one. We're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, and then 2 more in the next 2 chains. Sometimes it can be a little bit fiddly till you get a few more squares on there. Okay, so if you can see that we have 2 squares and they don't really look like much right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to attach those. So what we're going to do, get my tail out of the way, pull out some more yarn here. Okay, so what we're going to do is attach these. So what you do is you're going to slip stitch into this little space here so if you essentially see there's 4 of these here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to stick your hook into that one there, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through your loop. So now, if you can see, we've kind of attached them there. Okay, so now what you do, because we already have the square thing going on here, so now for this next square you only need to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. You'll have to excuse my cat. She's in heat, and so you might hear her in the background. I apologize. Okay, so there's 3. So now you're going to chain, or you're going to double crochet 3 more, because you want to have that 4. You want to consistently have that 4. So we're going to double crochet right into where you slip stitched. So here's 1, 2, oops, I'm kind of caught there, and 3. So what happens when you're a tight knitter. Okay, So now we have what looks like a heart, but we have done 2 rows of the C2C. And let me show you with the graph again. We have essentially done this one here and those 2 here, just like that. And you essentially continue to repeat this pattern for every row as you're growing your work, because this is how you continue to grow, and it gets bigger and bigger. And so we'll do another couple rows, and then I will meet you back when we do the increase or the decrease, because this is going to continue to increase. So we're going to turn our work, yarn over, and chain 6. 1, yeah, come on, little bugger. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then yarn over and double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's 1. Get some more string here. There's 2. And go on this last one here. Will be 3. Okay, now we're going to attach it. So now we're going to attach it. So you're going to slip stitch into here, pull through. Okay, so now you are essentially stacking. If you see, your work is growing. You have 3 going across here, and when you get done coming across, you'll have 3 coming up here as well. So again, now that you've attached your first square, essentially, now you've slip stitched, and you're going to chain 3. So just remember that in the first square of every row, you chain up 6, and the rest of them you only chain up 3. And now you're going to double crochet into that same place where you began your slip stitch. And you because you want to consistently keep that total of 4 stitches to create your square. And if you happen to keep going and you forget, just frog it out. It's all good. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we're going to slip stitch this into the last stitch. And then chain up 3. You always want to chain up 3 in the last one too, because you want to make sure you have that last square. And then double crochet 3 of those into there. So see, this is why this is so simple as far as following a graph, because you could really ultimately turn any kind of graph pattern that you've created or that you found, or you could use a cross stitch patterns, you could use perler bead patterns. I have done that. I have created a scarf, a Tunisian scarf, using that, but you could do it with this too. Like I said, the bunny pattern that I found was just a perler bead bunny pattern that I found, and I just adapted it to this because you're essentially just making squares. So now, as you can see, we have 3 squares going down and 3 squares going across, and we're going to continue with our pattern if you remember, until we have 8 going up and 10 across. So continue to do the pattern back and forth until you get to row 8, and I will meet you back here and show you how to decrease to keep it going square. Okay, so if you've been working your stitch, you should be at the 8th row. Now I'm just making a sample swatch, so I'm not going to do all of the 8 like you're doing, because I'm just doing a sample swatch to show you. So let's just say that we're at row 8 and we want to stop increasing because we want to eventually come to that point over here in the other corner. So what you will do is, instead of turning your work and chaining up 6, what you're going to do is turn your work and you're going to slip stitch into these 3 stitches here, 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to slip stitch into that stitch, this stitch, and this stitch. And what that'll do is will stop the increase, so that way you can continue to make you can begin to decrease, so that you will begin to come back to a point again. So we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into there, and you just yarn over and then pull through your loop there, and you're going to go back into that second stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through your loop, and then go in that last stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through your loop. So we slip stitch across, so we won't be increasing anymore. But now we still need to come back across, so we're still going to do the chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, just like we have been, because we still need to come across and make this a square. And so you'll be on the pattern, you'll be on the decrease rows now. And this can be a little tricky, so feel free to stop and pause and go back, because it took me a while when I first learned the stitch to understand how you were going to stop growing the work and come to a point at the other end. So then again, we're going to slip stitch this to join it. Okay, and then we're going to chain 3 and double crochet. And one more double crochet. All right, so continue on and I'll meet you down at the end. Okay, so I've come to the end of the row. We slip stitch, or we made the stitches, we slip stitched here in the beginning and made our row. Now I've joined this last square here to the last square on the end, just like we have been. But now, because remember, we don't want it to, let's just say we had our 8 and we had our 10. We don't want to continue. When you get to that point in the pattern, let me show you. When we get to this point in the pattern, we want to come down. So you don't want this to continue to grow upward. So that's why we're doing the slip stitches. So every time you come to the ends and turn, you're going to slip stitch 3 times and then do your 3 chains and join and make your squares, because eventually that will cause your work to come on itself and eventually come to a point at the end. So we're going to turn our work and we're going to chain into those 3 stitches there. Or slip stitch, I'm sorry, we're going to slip stitch into those 3 stitches. And that last one there. Okay, so now we've slip stitched across so that our square will not continue to increase. And now you do your 3 chains. And double crochets. Keeping with the 4 posts or stitches in that space there. Some more yarn. All right, and then we're going to slip stitch to this one and continue with the chain. And once you get the hang of this stitch, you can, like, this one, I mean, it works up really quickly. It's almost like one of those ones that you can kind of do if you're just doing like one, you're using yarn with just regular stripes and you're just not following a pattern, you just want to make a blanket. You can get going with this thing and without even thinking. And it works up really, it's one of the things I love about it. It works up really nicely, and it's one of my favorite stitches. I love it. I try to think of new ways that I can incorporate it into everything I do because I just love it. So, all right, so now we've come down to the end of that row. Straighten it out a little bit. So as you can see, it is starting to look like a square. We have one more on my sample piece. I have one more piece on your work. You'll still continue to follow the grid, and I will put a picture of this on my Instagram so that you can screenshot it and have the copy of this grid so that you can make this and be able to follow the pattern. All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn our work and do this one more time, and I'll meet you back here in a second. All right, so I've joined our final square, and I went ahead and turned it, and now I'm going to finish it off, to give it that nice edge, you slip stitch into those 3 stitches like you've been doing, and then you'll just fasten off and pull your tail, and then you can weave in your ends. All right, so then you just want to take your scissors, cut you off a tail, and depending on how you like is all fine. But I like a long tail to weave in just to make sure I got it in there. So then you just fasten it off and tighten it up. And so now you will make, on the grid, I'll tell you that you'll make 2 of these. On the second one, I didn't. If you look at the purse, I only made the leaf in the stem on the one side and did the other side all red. But you're more than willing to, or happy, if you'd like to, you can do it on both sides. I just wanted it on the one. But see, this has worked up to be really nice. I mean, you can make scrubbies out of this. You could make coasters. You can make so many things. So that's how you do the C2C stitch. Now, as far as attaching the zipper, I just took a thing of, I lined it up like you would when you're sewing. So I laid out my pieces and I laid the zipper inside there, and I laid it down and I stitched it on with using the, I don't know if you can see it right there. So there's some of that red embroidery thread, and I just whip stitched it on there. And then when I came to the ends of the zipper, I just pulled up my work over it so that it covered it up, and then whip stitched it on there, and then I whip stitched all along the edges to fill it in. Now to kind of show you what I did, I don't have a zipper on me, but what I can show you is an idea of what that looks like. So let's pause for just a second and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so to attach, I did find a zipper. So to attach the zipper, if this isn't as long as the zipper, but you would want to use one that is at least 4 inches. That's the one that I found works, or you could make one a little longer. But if you had 2 pieces of work, let me zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. You would just lay one piece on here like this, kind of close to the zipper. And then I used a couple pins and pinned it down. And then I went ahead and I inserted the pin like this just to help hold it for me. Like so, just like if you were sewing. Okay. And then I took a needle and thread of the embroidery thread, and I just whip stitched that down all the way across. And then when I got to the ends, like I showed you, I just pulled my work over that and whip stitched it on there to keep it closed. And then that way, you won't see those ugly ends on there. So that is how I installed the zipper. Now, you don't have to do a zipper. You could also do it with a button if you'd like. I just like the look of the zipper, but that's another option you have if you'd like to do that. So there you have it. That is how you do the C2C stitch right here. You make a bunch of squares and you put them together and you follow that square grid. And like I said, I'm going to have a picture of that square grid on my Instagram so that you can make this yourself with instructions. And also, I want to thank everyone for joining me through this September craft along. I really truly appreciate every one of you who've subscribed and who follow along. And to my new subscribers, thank you so much for watching. And to my old subscribers, again, thank you so much for subscribing as well. And so on that note, I want to mention about I have been talking about the fact that we're going to give the items away that we've made as a giveaway. So now that we have completed all of the tutorials, I am going to go ahead and do that giveaway. So I'm actually going to open this up to all of my subscribers here on the channel. So the rules are you have to like the videos, this video here. You also need to be a subscriber to the channel. And so if you actually have a couple, you have a bunch of chances to win, because if you've liked all the other videos, those count as well. And then I'm also going to, if you have anybody on Instagram that's come over from Instagram to watch this video, they can enter as well. You have to like the channel, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment. And also, if you've completed any of these tutorials for the craft along that we've done, I would love to see what you've created and your work. And you can do that over, if you'd like to post and show off your work, you can do that over on my Facebook group. It's the So What Home Party Facebook group. I will put a link to that in the description down below. And that is where I would love to see all your work and what you've created and the different techniques you've used to create these things. And without further ado, I want to thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. And I'm going to leave this giveaway open for about a week or so. So a week from today is when I'm going to do that. And I thank all of you for bearing with me, but it's been crazy trying to get everything situated with all of this. And so hopefully we will be able to pick a winner, and you will get all of these things here. The earrings, the needle minders, and the bag, which will fit nicely in your little bag. And also, again, like I said, if you're new to the channel, thank you. And also give this video a thumbs up, because it always helps out a lot. And subscribe and let your friends know if they're crafty to join us. We're gonna have lots of fun. And stay tuned to the channel, because we have more things coming up in store. We're going to have the October craft along, as well as October's podcast. And we'll talk about all the new things coming up with the channel and all the giveaways and things I have planned for the channel. All right, well, thank you for watching. And as always, so what is in your craft room today? So I just wanted to point out in this part of the video that if you have your 8 stitches when you're working going in the corner like this, you would work you're going to find out that you'll get to your 8 stitches going diagonal. There'll be 8 going this way, 8 going this way. You'll slip stitch to stop the growth this way, but you want to continue with your chain 6 on the bottom to get to your 10, and then you would slip stitch to stop it from growing. I realized afterwards while editing that I forgot to cover that. But you would essentially, if this was your 8th square going up, when you came back across making your stitches, you would obviously still need 2 more squares. So you would do your chain 6, continue down, make your last stitch, do the slip stitch, come down, do your 1 more chain 6 when you got to here to make it 10, and then you would be able to slip stitch on both ends to start narrowing it to the corner. I hope that made sense. If not, let me know and I will try to explain it even better.